Okay, I see it live.
Yeah, I'm going to share it out on mine. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and then I guess we're going to do the intro and stuff, and then I'll unmute at that point. And then...
Yeah, cool. Thanks again. love the music.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing wonderfully today. Got some nice Zelda lo-fi going on for you right now. I want to say ahead of time, thank you everyone for coming in, popping in, and seeing these wonderful racers doing an awesome race. And thank you for joining us here in general. For those of you who join us live, for those of you also who join us after the fact, thank you very much for being here and participating in this. I'm going to go ahead and fade the music out really quickly as I kind of try to set the stage. And today we're going to have some guest commentary as well from thumbbros. Thumbbros, would you be so kind as to say hello and introduce yourself and your experience within this particular realm of gaming?
Oh, hey, Retro Room. I'm doing well. I am amateur over here, and hope everyone's having a thumbs up day or night. Thanks for taking the time to host and commentate. I do appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure to be had, and I very much appreciate you all for tolerating this, as this is a much more of a process than hopefully most of you get to see on the back end. We want to make sure that we try to do right by our racers and our community here. But for any of you who are unfamiliar, who haven't seen the races prior, or for those of you who have seen the races prior, we have another wonderful race for you today between Dad Level Podcast, commonly referred to as DLP, and Great White North, commonly referred to as GWN, the Battle of the Acronyms. And if I'm not mistaken, we're doing something a little bit atypical of the race that we had prior, wherein we're going to bring in racers one at a time to kind of get an idea or a feel for what they're feeling, how they're thinking through their processes, what they plan to do. Is that correct, Thumb?
Oh yeah. I might be hearing some echo though on your ends.
You're hearing some echo on my end? Let's see here.
I think that's better now. Oh yeah, no, I just heard it.
Okay. So bearing in mind, I can't hear my own stream. I don't think I have an additional audio source here.
Oh, maybe because I'm on the stream here.
Okay.
Yeah, let me exit the stream. Yeah, okay, that's on me.
No worries. But as I understand it, we're going to have the racers come in prior to the run and kind of talk with us about what their processes are, how they're feeling, what they're thinking, and before we get kind of started with that, is that correct?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Thanks again, Great White North and Dad Level Podcast, for taking the time to participate in these races.
Absolutely. And with that having been said, DLP, any chance we can get you in here in the chat so we might be able to speak with you, ask you a couple of questions, etc.?
I'm here. You want to talk this way, or you want me to get in the chat?
No, sounds perfect. I think, at least from my side. Does everybody else hear him loud and clear? Thumb, can you hear him all right?
Yep.
Perfect. So, Thumb, I'm going to defer to you in this case because obviously I have pretty general questions, you being a little bit more expert in this despite your claiming amateur. What are some questions you might have for DLP today in terms of the races? What are things that you're looking forward to seeing? Please feel free to ask those here.
Are you do you see yourself picking up a bottle or a ferry?
Probably not. I'm gonna try to do this first attempt since we're gonna be doing 2 runs tonight without the ferry and seeing how it goes.
Okay. And just a quick question. I want to kind of get the vibe of all of this. Obviously, we have people that are here that are from the community, people that aren't necessarily from the community. You're doing a public race, which is a really awesome thing to both you and GWN, as well as to the racers that we had the last time. But I want to know kind of how you're feeling. Obviously, this is all for fun. We're not doing this for money or anything, but I kind of want to know, how are you feeling? Or is there any are you a little bit anxious here? Are you ready to get in and go?
Not really. I mean, I've played this game so much, and I mean, I've already streamed it. I think 4 times in one stream, just practicing and stuff, because we were supposed to do this about a month ago. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm just ready to get on with the race and have fun.
Raring and ready to go. And just as a curiosity, obviously you talked about maybe changing the strategies up between one and the other. Do you have any sort of atypical, like idiosyncrasies that you feel like are going to be unique to yours? Obviously, I don't want you to give away the secrets that may give you the cutting edge here, or a winning edge here. But I'm just curious as to if there's anything we should be looking for that might be a special, a trademark, or a signature that you would say a DLP signature, so to speak.
Not at the moment. I mean, I won't have my spicy commentary or voice work going on, but impressions of other actors and things. But no, just playing the game and seeing how it goes.
Okay.
Not anything special.
Special button combination to have the Link sprite look up at the camera and wink for just a moment, you know. So, all right, well, wonderful. It sounds to me like you're raring, you're ready to go, you're geared for speed, and you're well practiced in this. So, again, I really want to say thank you very much for coming in and participating in this, for going live on this. Obviously, it's something that's super fun to see. And for all of you that are in the chat, please feel free to show your support and to rare on and cheer on our racers today. This was DLP. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. This is fun, and I hope you guys enjoy that are in the chat and watching.
I have no doubt that they will. And if you don't mind, we follow suit. We'll bring in Great White North, GWN.
Hi there.
Hello there. Thank you so very much for being with us and participating in this awesome race. Again, I kind of like to defer to Thumb in the first question, asking specifics, because he knows this so much better than I do. Mine are just kind of general questions, so I'll defer to him for the first question, certainly. Thumb, what would you have? What might you have for GWN?
Are you going to pick up the lantern?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, that's a good move. I just wanted to ask that.
That's
that was the first time I ever not pick up the lantern and come across the door and couldn't push it. So yes, we'll definitely be picking up the lantern.
Very nice. I should have asked this question before. I'm sorry, Thumb. Did you have another one you wanted to ask?
Oh yeah, I just want to point out some audio tech. Like on my end, like I would hear like dad level podcasts, but then like when I would listen to you, it would break off a little bit. At least that's how I'm hearing it in the Discord.
Not sure then. I heard you break up a couple times for a second there, but
did you hear me?
It'd be smooth up throughout the stream.
Oh, did you hear me break up by chance?
Not now, but okay. I think like when you talk at length, sometimes it breaks up. At least, okay. Maybe not for the viewers, but just for me. And I think Dad Level Podcast might have said that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean to bring up tech right here.
No,
but
that's okay. I apologize. The viewers should be able to hear me nice and loud and clear. Please do let me know, however, if you do. But luckily, the audio, they're getting the purest audio feed of mine. It could be an idiosyncrasy or issue with Discord, but we'll hope not to let it interrupt us too terribly much, and we'll try to kind of plow and push through it as best as we possibly can. Also, I'll stay on the mic because I definitely have some things to try and help sound correct. So, anyway, to GWN, I'm going to ask a little bit the same question. How do you feel about this, jumping into it? Are you well practiced, well prepared, excited? Do you feel like that there's maybe a little bit of anxious just in you, or how do you feel about this?
Oh, no anxious. I was expecting or kind of prepared for a little while, and then I didn't practice for like a good week. But I played this game so many times. I used to beat it in under 3 hours. So I'm good with it too. I just want to have fun, even if I don't do well tonight. This is a great time to be here.
I have no doubt that this is going to be a wonderful series of races to see, and I have no doubt that you'll both do famously. I am going to change it up a little bit, though. I asked about idiosyncrasies and trademarks that you might have, and of course, I'd definitely be interested if you have something special that you feel like is unique to this GWN brand of racing.
Not especially. Except for making sure on the lantern this time. But other than that, nothing crazy. Just going to go with what we were going to do. That's all.
So I guess I want to divert on this just for a second. I should have asked this to DLP, and DLP, of course, I would love to hear if you have something special. Are we expecting to stay out of or on the platform, during the major worm fight? Or are we expecting to maybe get bumped off a time or two?
I'm hoping the, holding down your sword in the direction of the worm will not knock me off. So we'll see how that goes.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things of this race. It's one of those RNG moments where you just never know. But I expect, again, you guys are gonna deliver far and beyond whatever I could. I'm just very curious about this for my own personal, for my future runs. So,
yeah, no. If this helps out anybody else, go for it.
And
Sure.
I do think that brings us to a point really quickly. If any of you happen to be in this and are interested in starting to run this, I think that taking a look at the previous runs here from racers like DLP and GWN, as well as from people like Shode, who we see in the chat, and thank you very much for being here, and from all of the wonderful racers that we had last time, I think it's an ideal way, if you're looking to jump into it, to kind of get an idea of strategies and see different skill levels, and really, really great way to get involved. So if you're interested in getting involved in this, please do take a look at that. And obviously, please let us know. It's always a great thing to have a great community of people who are interested in perpetuating great games. A lot of great there. Without further ado, if no one has objection, I think I'm going to go ahead and transfer us over to the screens so that we can see what our layout is, get our sound going, and get queued up for our race. Hello there, Shode. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can move us over. There we are. Very, very nice. Hopefully everybody can see this layout. Nice, clean, clear, and crisp. As we have Great White North there on the left and DLP there on the right. We will be hearing audio, game audio specifically from DLPs. So I do have a little loopy indicator down there at the bottom. And just to make sure I do that, you're going to have to forgive my mouse for just a moment as I click so that we can indeed hear that. This is so cool. Very nice. No, I very much appreciate the comments, compliments, and of course your feedback. Please do let us know if you're having any issues hearing us, seeing us, etc. We want to make sure that we give you the best experience we possibly can while helping to not make it too stressful on everybody, obviously, because this is all about having fun. All right. Thumb, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Wonderful. I apologize. So, during this, Thumb has graciously agreed to be my co-commentator here, and whereas I can give general commentary on my basic understanding of this, Thumb will be able to give me a lot more insight this time. I think we've got all of the audio kinks cleared out, so I should be able to have a pretty dynamic back and forth with him, and he should be able to commentate. Also, want to give you a little bit of preface here. This timer that we have down here in the center is just for reference. Please do understand that if you are someone who is very, very specific on the times, this isn't going to be perfectly accurate, and you can refer to the each channel for the clocks that they have running, or if none of that is available, please do subtract the amount of time it takes, because there is some latency between when I say go and when we can see that they heard me say go, basically. Stream looking nice. Thank you very much, Shode.
So also for people checking in, this is the second Master Sword race that we're doing. We did the first race in mid-July. I want to give thanks to Shode. I want to give thanks to Mega Ace Gaming, Maz and Power, and Mega Retro Man Paul Tessie, all for doing those races. So this is our second time with these Zelda races, or races in general. We first did these races in 2021 with Running Retro, Super Mario Brothers. Huge thanks to Running Retro for putting all the time in to help out with that collab as well. And we're excited to do some more racing collabs as we go along.
Absolutely. Okay.
I'll also be talking a little bit about each racer during the during when it's a good time to talk about each of them, because I like to do that sometimes, like say something nice about their channels and whatnot.
Sure. And I'm I'm having a quick issue here, so I'm just trying to get that fixed. One of the unfortunate things that does happen sometimes, but we should have... There we go. Should have that nice and fixed. My apologies for the temporary lapse in their screen. So, again, we're going to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. On go, the timer is going to start. Again, if you're very specific on the timing here, please do take, when you see their screens hit start, subtract the amount of time on the timer, and that will be much closer to their actual times. But I guess the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is, now that we're going to kind of jump right into things, make sure the racers, are you both ready for a countdown?
Ready.
Yeah, ready.
Okay, perfect. All right, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Here we go. And that's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Again, please do forgive that there is going to be some delay here. There's a couple of computers trying to talk with each other and networks trying to talk with each other, so the logistics of trying to hold something like this remote. Hopefully at one point in time we could do this kind of like... oh, shoot, I would love to do this like GDQ, but... Who knows where this will...
Well, yeah, I mean, we all can't be experts all the time.
That's held for you, an amateur, for certain.
So we are off to the beginning, and this becomes a little bit of a mash fest with the buttons. This is the English version, not the Japanese version. Since this is going to be a little bit more text, you're going to be just pressing buttons here. So just press, 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 press.
And making sure I'm clear on this, this is mashing buttons except for X, right? Because that would open the map and delay things further, correct?
It's okay to press X in this screen. But yeah, generally after leaving this house, you don't want to press X. It's okay to just press B. It's okay to just press one button. But if you want to get the fastest time, you want to press all those 3 buttons at once.
Sure. Okay. Let me see. So in this case, one of the things that I do also notice on this first section is always a little bit slower because we don't have the swords yet. How important on these sections is pathing, and is there a potential to have issue with pathing before you start having sword dash capabilities?
It's a little bit like a racing game right now. You want to cut corners as much as you can. Like you want to hug walls. And it's just like how racing games, you cut those corners. You want to, if you're making a turn, you want to try to cut those corners as best you can. It's not like super important, but it does add up over time. I would say that's probably, in terms of movement, the most important thing at this point before getting the running shoes.
Okay, all right. And we can see I'm pretty neck and neck right here, despite having a kind of a wonky start time. We can definitely see that there's a pretty neck and neck in terms of the pathing, both of them being in the palace and pretty close.
I think they both went different entrances. Great White North went to the right side. You're gonna have more enemies appear on one of those screens. Dad level Puck. This is the first tricky part in terms of time. Is this enemy here? It takes either 2 hits or 3 hits, and he could take some time. There's different strats there, but both runners got through there pretty well. Here you're going to be mostly going in evasion mode, Metal Gear style, or pacifist style. You want to try and avoid combat as much as you can in these situations.
Okay. And we'll see, I'm sure, as we get closer to some of these the fights that are coming up where combat is unavoidable, we'll be able to see how we can kind of exploit some of our pathing and some of our movesets. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's each screen has their own unique characteristic. In this game, every screen is pretty unique, so it's going to be interesting to see what each racer does here, how they maneuver that. Do they fight this enemy? Do they bypass this enemy? Both are picking up the boomerang.
Okay.
It's not required to pick up the boomerang for this category. Actually, you could skip it. There are some advantages, less menuing, but the boomerang is so good for stunning enemies. Very useful.
And it comes in handy, it seems to, at least in previous races, come in handy quite a lot for the tile parts or the tile rooms that we have, which there are 2 of in this race, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, there's going to be one in third, particularly noteworthy in the 3rd dungeon. Both racers getting through that pretty well, actually. There's several different strategies you could do with that guy. You could throw pots at him, 2 pots at him. You could throw one pot and do 4 sword swipes, or no pots and 8 sword swipes. But both came through pretty well. Dad Love Podcast has pretty good health. You got to be a little bit careful of health here. Great White North probably should pick up a heart along the way. There are some good safeties in this game in general, which I love about the Zelda games. There's always some good safeties around. There's always some good heart pieces around and whatnot. And I think that's good game design to have that as an option.
So I guess that brings me to one of my big questions, and it was going to be I'm going to tie 2 questions into this. We're talking about getting the boomerang as it helps in some of the rooms, but it adds menuing time to it. What mitigates, I guess, in terms of time loss? What is the best mitigation of time loss? Is it to pick up the boomerang and to accept the menuing, or is it to leave the menuing away and the boomerang away? And likewise, is it wiser to take a little bit of a time lost in picking up extra life, or is it okay to go ahead and kind of leave those hearts on empty for the sake of time?
I think it depends on a race setting. You definitely want to, if you see a heart, you might want to take it. It might worth those 2 seconds to backtrack to pick up that heart, just to give you that peace of mind. It's always important to have that peace of mind. As in terms of the boomerang, I think for the 100% category, like the full game, people skip the boomerang and they get it later because of the menuing. But for this particular Master Sword, it's very helpful to get the boomerang. If you use it, you could stun enemies and you can walk through enemies, which is like one of the coolest things about this game.
So there's a big abusive collision article basically with that attack. You're going to have iframes effectively, or kind of reverse iframes almost in the enemy. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're going to be frozen, and you have like a 2-second window here. This snake part, Great White North doing a spin slash. I like that. I've never seen that before. That's pretty cool. Dad Level Podcast makes his way through as well. As you see, both runners have 3 hearts right now, 3 heart containers. Each damage from each enemy is like a half a heart, or sometimes it takes 2 hits to take some health. So even though you have low health, the enemies do low damage in this particular sewers.
Sure. Just taking a moment to go ahead and relay some chat to you. Harriet says, commentary is very helpful, thumbbros. So thank you very much for that feedback, Harriet. And thank you also for being here and co-commentating, Thumb. Obviously, your insight on this is very, very helpful for those of us who are lay people to this. And then also Ash is in and says, hello all, how's it going? It's going very well. Thank you for stopping in, Ash. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, thanks Harriet for coming in. Thanks Ash for coming in, and everyone else. We don't want to leave anyone out, but I know I thank people in text, but I guess vocally, thanks Harriet and Ash. I hope everyone's having a thumbs up here tonight. And thanks again everyone else for checking in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, thank you very much. Also, a couple other names really quickly. Carla, thank you for showing back up to this particular race. It's always wonderful to have you. And 21 Sandwich, who is stating neck and neck, and he's not wrong. They're definitely very close in this race. So we're going to see, I'm sure we're going to see some parts here, especially when we come to the mid-late race where it's going to be a little bit more tricky, I would imagine. But right now, yeah, we're definitely seeing some pretty close racing tactic.
So this is going to be an interesting part here. I'm wondering which racer, what they're going to do here. There's a treasure chest right there. And Great White North is skipping the heart container. That's really gutsy. I love that. That's really cool to see. DLP is going to pick it up, but I like that we're seeing this split screen action here. On the left, Great White North is 3 heart containers and DLP has 4. This is going to be really exciting to see what happens here.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting to see the strategies here. Really quickly, Retro Ren says, I'm here, you're welcome. I charge by the hour. Welcome in, Retro Ryan. Good to have you here. We're definitely seeing a wonderful race by these two, and definitely seeing some different tactics here from not only each other, but what we saw last time. This is we're definitely seeing some differences here. So you mind, just for the sake of being more concise than I can be on this, talking about how they're restarting or using or slightly abusing the spawn of Sanctuary and Home and all of that good stuff?
What was it again? Just spawn of?
Yeah. I was saying how they're using and abusing the effectively the game reboot, exiting to the menu, choosing when to spawn. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on that?
You talking about saving quits?
Yes, saving quits. Thank you.
Yeah. So for the viewers and potential future runners, there's going to be I call it high five. There's going to be 5 times these racers are going to be using save and quit. They've used it once so far, so there's going to be 4 more times where they're going to use save and quit, where they go back to the title screen as a little bit of a shortcut. It kind of cuts down on the backtracking. It's only allowed in this category, Master Sword.
Okay, so in longer iterations of these races, you're not allowed to do that. That's
correct.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, fair enough. So I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, no worries.
I guess another question that I have too is in these populated rooms, like and I could be wrong about this, in the GWN room right now, that room right there, he's accidentally spawned those, but I believe that the target area for that is just above that center box. Is that correct? That can be bypassed, technically speaking?
This room here, where Great White North just finished and Dead Love Podcast will be coming into shortly, is one of the trickiest rooms at first. And it's what makes it one of the more exciting rooms in a way. There are going to be 4 skeletons that are going to be popping up, but there is a way where if you don't go past a certain point, only 2 skeletons will pop up. It's those skeletons that are on the floor. You don't want to go past a certain point. It takes some practice to get to. It's very satisfying to do it, but if you don't get it, it's okay because you have those pots to kill those skeletons.
And for frame of reference, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that target area is just about a door-shaped rectangle right above that center square. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rectangle. It's a little bit of a small window. Mm-hmm. You gotta be mindful. I use those skeletons on the floor as a visual of a crossing point where you don't want to go past a certain point. When you play these games, you got to look at like visual cues, like to kind of help you. This room here that Great White North is coming in, he has only 3 heart containers. So let's just see what we have here.
So on this room right here, this is a particularly tricky one because if I'm not mistaken, those anti-fairies can actually be tricked with an iframe kind of a damage boost. Am I correct in that?
Yes, the advanced strat is you take a damage from an enemy and then you go through. You don't have to fight these enemies. You could just pick up the pot. Iframes are short for invincible frames. Mm-hmm. When you take damage, you're going to be invincible for about 2 to 3 seconds. It's sort of a popular big buzzword, iframe, so that's what it stands for. And this game, you'll see that in iframes. Once you take damage, you're invincible. So
sure. So it looks like in this particular one that both have kind of taken the safer strat, which I can respect on that. We did see a couple of instances in a couple of races prior where someone attempted to take the iframes and then were consistently met with issue because for one reason or another, it didn't actually allow them to take those iframes. They couldn't actually step on and target the button. So
it's a tricky spot, especially when you have this amount of health early on in the game. Mm-hmm. Both racers. They need to be mindful of where their health is. A great strat by Great White North, like go on the left side there, getting rid of that eye guy. Yep. Those eye guys are tough though. They do take a lot of damage, but he does have the big key. So he has the arrows. Both runners have the bow and arrow, which was the first item in the first Zelda game. Mm-hmm. The difference here in this game, the bow is very useful for hitting these eye enemies and the boss. In the first Zelda, you sort of get the bow and arrow, but it doesn't really do much in that dungeon per se.
Okay.
So the cool thing about this game is this is the first Zelda game ever in history where the dungeon item that you get actually helps you in the boss fight. And I think that's really clever. That's kind of cool to see this history.
It's very much definitely, at least to me, it seems to kind of invoke some of the Metroidvania-esque where the things you're getting all have utility in upcoming fights or upcoming rooms. So I definitely can agree with that. Now, I guess one of the questions that I have here is we're taking certain strategies. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we didn't actually see the iframes taken in the anti-fairy room. Are we going to, do you think in the second races we might see some of these changed up to be a little bit more aggressive? Do you think that they might try and change it up and just kind of have an all-out one? Or do you think we're going to see just absolute optimizing of pathing and trying to find the speed in other areas that they currently are doing very well in, at least it looks like to me?
I think both runners are getting comfortable. I think they're getting their feet wet with this first race. The great thing about doing the second race is you could kind of get these jitters out of the way, get used to what spots were tricky, knowing where the hearts are, knowing where like extra items are. I think they're going to be using the same strats for the most part, but I think they're going to be a little bit more used to those tough enemies, like these enemies with the eye. Great job by Dad Little Podcast of getting through those that part. That's not an easy part. This boss fight, there's different ways to go about this. There's 6 of these knights, and you have to kill 5 of them. And then once you kill the 5th one, there's going to be like this really angry knight. That's going to come charging at you. And as you can see, he's using the bow and arrow to make quick work at these guys.
And to go ahead and I guess add some flavor,
go ahead.
Context to that, if you don't mind. In terms of the shooting, this is one of the things when it comes to the bow and arrow that was one of the very fascinating, because even something as what seems to be as simple outwardly as using the bow and arrow is actually a lot more complicated and a lot more measured. As you cannot shoot there cannot be, as I understand it, 2 arrow projectiles on the screen at once. You have to have one hit its target before you can take that second shot. That's correct? Yes.
Yes, that is correct. With this particular game, I guess one nitpick or gripe you can have. I love this game to death. It's a beautiful game. I love this game. It's one of my all-time favorites. However, the arrow, like the lining up with certain enemies, could be very tricky at first. Like you fire an arrow and it doesn't hit because you have to line up perfectly. And also, yes, you can't fire 2 arrows at the same time, hitting something. Like you have to hit something and then you have to wait a little bit. And that's going to come into play if both runners are using arrows in the worm boss fight, which is the next dungeon.
And we kind of saw that a little bit of that done with Great White North when we have the 2 enemies coming at you. He decided to take arrows to one of them and then decided to kind of go in at a almost like a perpendicular angle with his arrows in order to kind of mitigate that distance and that delay from having that 1 arrow at a time limit. So very, very well done. And he's sitting here taking the angered final minion boss.
Yeah, good strategy. This is a good backup strat here.
Very nice.
If you just keep firing away, and just keep firing at your sword. It might be a little bit slower, but it does get the job done. But this race is still anyone's race, and if you notice, both of these racers are going back and forth. Each racer had a death, and it's still a super close race. And that's what I love about these races, when you have different people more familiar with the game, you just see different. Just different groups of people playing. You see a different style too, and I just love the fact that these split screen is happening.
We definitely can see that these racers have done this before. They have an idea of what's going on when it comes to how to use the arrows, how to kind of mitigate those lost frames. Obviously, they've known where all the switches and buttons are. And I want to go ahead and I guess make a point to people who haven't gotten the opportunity to run this game, who may not have played this game even all the way through casually, that just remembering the pathing and what buttons need to be hit in order to open what doors or to make what chests appear, that's all part of this battle as well, which these 2 are doing masterfully. They're demonstrating that they know this game, and it's just a matter of execution now.
Well, I guess to say something about these racers is that they both love Zelda games. I think Dad Love Podcast has this as his favorite Zelda, and Great White North might have this as his favorite Zelda. Great White North loves the Super Nintendo, which is the second Nintendo console after the NES. He also loves Ninja Gaiden as well, and like Castlevania, like Castlevania 2. He just recently did a really great run of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, which is also a bit of a cryptic game, could be at times. Like, if you haven't played Link to the Past in a good while, it could feel a little bit weird not knowing where to go. Especially the later dungeons, like the Dark Worlds. I have to admit, I get lost if I don't play in a good while. This part of the game, it's mostly, it's sort of like an intermission before the second dungeon. Great White North does pick up this book where you need to read Hylian text, which is a little bit of a reference to like Lord of the Rings, I feel. How Lord of the Rings kind of had like the Elvish text. And then normally you would do a save and quit there, but he's opting not to do the save and quit. This will be the second time you do save and quit, up to 5 times.
I was saying really quickly, I have to ask you something just a little.
Oh, the third time. I'm sorry. This will be the third time. I apologize. Yeah, go ahead.
No worries, I have to ask you something. This is related to the game, not quite related to the race. Just for a second. Hylian text, is there a translation for that? Is that a real,
No, I think it's made up.
Okay. I was just curious because I know that like Elvish and all that have it. I just was, for my own curiosity, didn't know, but...
The reason why I bring up Lord of the Rings is because this game came out in 1991. The original Zelda came out in 1986. During the 1980s, that was the time where we had these like fantasy movies and also books, especially the 1970s. And then I could definitely see Lord of the Rings really inspiring Zelda, and now how Lord of the Rings kind of has its own text and whatnot. And Lord of the Rings does have a lot of elves too.
It's
yeah, go ahead.
The game definitely definitely had some inspiration that's been pulled here, and so I just for people who are from, I think everybody at this point, Zelda is a gaming phenomenon all the way through from the original in '86 all the way up to Tears of the Kingdom and the new ones even that are coming out from the Nintendo Direct. But I was just curious for those who may not be quite as accustomed, or perhaps this is their first exposure to the more retro. As much as it pains me to say, we're not the only generation getting involved in Zelda, and this may be some individuals' first exposure to the retro Zelda world.
I think it's really impressive that this is actually the last original 2D Zelda, 1991. There was a Link's Awakening as a remake, and there's actually Link Between Worlds, which was a handheld. Great game also. If the viewers haven't played A Link Between Worlds, that's a really fun game on the 3DS, which came out like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. This is also a great game. Also, there's a new Zelda game, sort of a 2D style, Echoes of Wisdom, that I'm kind of excited about. It's also Zelda is going to be the main protagonist. I mean, the game is named after, so it does make sense to have her being the starring role.
We haven't had that since the CDI, so it's going to be nice.
True. Oh yeah, those CDI games are kind of weird.
But she's the protagonist of 2 of them, so which is kind of a weird thing. The third one is Link, actually. So, and no. And then, so go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, then you got the Zelda cartoon. The Zelda cartoon was only in the 1980s, only one season, but there is going to be a Zelda live action movie supposedly, so that's going to be kind of interesting to see how that plays out.
Excuse me, princess.
Yeah, always that catchphrase.
I love it. Those are. It seems like those days we're not that far behind us, and yet those were a third of a century back, almost half a century back now.
Yeah. I still have the show. I've been on DVD, and so it does have references from the first Zelda. It has the sound effects, it has the music and the monsters, which is kind of cool. This is the Infinity Gauntlet. I have to say it, the Power Glove on Great White North's screen. I know I said that the arrow would kill the boss in the first dungeon. The glove doesn't really do anything in this dungeon. The only thing it does is there's going to be an outside area for a short amount of time. So when you pick up the Thanos Gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet, it's just to pick up a stone. But it does show that this game is doesn't follow a straight path. Like after finishing this dungeon, you could kind of still go explore a lot of places, and that was kind of cool concept about the Zelda games, particularly with the first one and this one, is that there's a lot of exploration involved. Once you get a certain item, it does open a lot of doors and whatnot. And I think that's what I love about this game. It has so much appeal.
The game definitely, it's definitely wide open of it. And I guess that kind of does bring me to a more technical question when it comes to the racers. A lot of this game it has a pretty good, and I would say relatively scripted issue. How much of this do you think is scripted versus genuine RNG? Which, again, I'll go ahead and define really quickly. RNG is random number generator, or effectively what is legitimately random each time you play.
Yeah, there's not much. Oh, Great White North took a death against those laser guys. Those guys are really tricky because they get fired from a distance. If you see how they're rotating out their eyes, Zelda, the console follow-up to this one, Ocarina of Time, which came out in 1998, first Zelda in 3D, those guys, those with the rotating eyes, were so cool to see back then. And it's so cool to see now. But it's really cool to see them in the 2D form here. There's going to be some safety for Dad Level Podcast to pick up some hearts in the next room up ahead. There's going to be 4 pots. There's going to be hearts on the bottom, and there's going to be a bow and arrow on the top. So you get those 2 hearts there. With the randomness, this boss battle coming up is going to be very random after.
It's after the first 2 or 3 moves.
Yeah. They're going to put these 3 worms are going to pop up. And then after that, it's just all up in the air with the randomness. And that's what makes the fight going to be very fun to see. Great White North is a little bit low on arrows, so he's probably going to use his sword. Dad Level Podcast, he might use his sword as well. Oh, he's going with the bow and arrows. Okay, so this is going to be interesting to see. Bow and arrows, I believe, do double damage on this boss. But he's using the sword charge here, which is a pretty cool strat, actually. So it's a good safety.
In terms of damage, you were saying bow and arrow does double damage here. In terms of damage in total, what would do the most damage? So I've seen this done 2 ways, I believe, where we see the sword charge done in a position that can hit 2 of them at a time, or almost all 3 of them, and then someone using bow and arrow on the first few. What is the ideal strat? Is it to use the bow and arrow? Is it to use the sword charge while perfectly placed? What works best?
I feel like you want to have at least 20 or more arrows for this boss fight, 25 preferably. But if you have 20 or more arrows, you can fire away on the first phase. I know Dad Law Podcast took a death there. I just want to say that both runners are not going with the potion or fairies. If you have a potion or a fairy for a race, it could be a very good strat here as a backup safety strat for these worm fights here. But I do think it's cool that both runners are both sort of using the same strats in terms of that. You want to use arrows as much as you can. Great White North also took a death there. And it just shows you that when you put 2 runners against each other who are similar abilities, similar familiarity level, it's always up in the air with this game, with this particular run. Like, you could just see, if you had to make a prediction of who's going to win right now, Great White North or Dad Level Podcast, you can't make that prediction because this game is so unpredictable with this boss fight. This is just so cool to see, and I think both runners are doing a great job. Just keep going at it.
Yeah, to drop that kind of something that kind of applies to it's bigger. The only constant in the universe is change, and I think this is the best embodiment we can see of that. Is there is really no constant except for that we are going to see some great strategies done, and from 2 great racers, and it's all up in the air until somebody touches the sword. So I think that's a spot on analogy.
Well, if you also look at Dead Love Podcast, he did take a death on the first go around at these worms, but now he got rid of one of these worms. He does have 5 health, or 5 hearts, I believe, or 4 hearts full. So he's doing a really good job coming back here. And Great White North has 1 less heart container. So I just want to say he's the first person in our community in a race to fight these worms with 4 hearts. So I want to give him props for that also.
And do you think that was, just as a curiosity, is that something in order to try and optimize the speed to go ahead and forego that heart container? Is that saving him 2 frames? Is that saving him 15 seconds? I mean, do you have an idea?
There are 2 time saves by skipping the heart container in Sanctuary after you bring back Prince and Zelda. You are saving about 5 seconds, getting a heart, blah, 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 and so on. Okay. But also, if you notice, when you finish the dungeon, the game fills up your magic bar and also fills up your hearts. Mm-hmm. So by having less heart containers, you are saving time after each dungeon completion. Maybe it's like maybe I don't know the exact seconds, but it could be 1 to 2 seconds here or there. So that it could be a 10-second time save total when things go right.
So very similar in the Super Mario Bros. When you hit low on the flag so that you don't have the 5,000 points to count in, etc. That type of
yes,
time.
Yes.
Okay.
Super Mario Brothers. Yes, if you get 1, 3, or 6 at the end of the level, it has the fireworks and whatnot.
Right.
But GG's to both runners for getting through those worms. They definitely wormed their way through. So. GG's on that. Dad Level Podcast. I know I mentioned movie references like Lord of the Rings and whatnot. He's a big movie buff as well. On his channel, he has a good mix of video games and movies. He loves sort of like the same movies I do. He's a big Star Wars fan. I know you're a big Star Wars fan, Retro Room. I know viewers in the community are big Star Wars fans, or different like movies like Terminator or Aliens and whatnot. So Dad Love Podcast does a great job bringing those movies to life. That's what I love about it. And I think his favorite games, we both had the similar favorite games. He loves games like Chrono Trigger, which is an RPG, and he loves Final Fantasy games as well. So you should definitely check out these both of these guys if you haven't. Great White North and Dad Level Podcast. Just huge shout out for just participating, taking the time to do this race, and thanks again to viewers for taking the time to check in as well.
And to the viewers, let me go ahead and go one step further, if I may. Please check out everybody, Great White North Dad Level Podcast and Thumbbros, as you will find all of their links in my description down below. Please do go give them a view, as they have great content that comes out constantly, from Let's Play, Let's Learn, to critiques, reviews, gameplays, and actual races. It's always great to see people in the community, and I've tried to make it a little bit easier by providing those links down below. So if you get time and you feel the itch, please do give them a click, take a look, give them your support. I think it's wonderful. One thing to note, and I'd made note of this before, is in GWN's part, and of course DLP has already passed this. This part is the speed of this part is throttled substantially as you have an older man in tow. So as fast as he's going is about as fast as you can go, because you can't go full speed right now.
Yeah, that old timer. Back here, by Jay. Yeah, just kidding. He does talk a lot too. I know Great White North didn't really do a save and quit there. So, but there's going to be one more save and quit after this dungeon. Dad Level Podcast is low at health, but if he does take a death here, it's not the end of the world, because this dungeon entrance, this is the last dungeon, is sort of like a checkpoint.
And I will say that this right here, from what I've seen and from what I've done on this palace is more of a switch palace than any Super Mario World switch palace has ever been. The amount of switches you have to hit in order to make this work for you, and in what order and to what speed in order to make this feasible in a run, is absolutely insane. So to watch anybody navigate this particular temple is a work of art just to get through it, I think.
Well, the thing is, but the cool thing about this game is that if you notice now, there's stairs, there's upstairs, there's downstairs, there's ABC, there's a 3F, third floor. This is 6 floors here. The cool thing about this game was the dungeons got very complex. You already see this is only the 3rd dungeon. There's 12 dungeons in this game. This is the 3rd and last dungeon for this race, but you already see how complex this dungeon is. It's just really fascinating. And like you said, the quote-unquote gimmick are these switches that you have to hit. There's blue and orange or red, however you want to say it. So you can see there, Dad Level Podcast has to, or DLP has to press something on the floor, and then he has to maneuver. You can see that going back and forth. And speaking of Switch, this stream is sponsored by the Nintendo Switch. No, just kidding.
I wish. But in that same vein, speaking of the gimmicks, right? The switches are one of the major gimmicks, but the other gimmick is that as you start to ascend, you'll notice that the floors have holes in them that you could fall in. This is going to come very important not only into pathing of the floors themselves, but it's going to come very important when we get to the boss fight of this, the gravity of the situation, quite literally.
Yeah, it's a great concept, great boss design here. Moldorum is the fight. That's going to be the final boss of this, and it's going to be anyone's game. Both runners are in the same room, the same tile room. Dad Love Podcast, one more hit and it'll be a death. So, but he's doing a great strat here. He's going to the left here, using the charge sword, and that's a really. I mean, the fact that he's down to his last health, and if he gets through this room, man, GG. That's really impressive. Great White North just doing a phenomenal job. Wow.
Yep.
Both runners are
wonderful. Just really quick. Big cheers to DLP for getting past that tile room on a half heart. That is absolutely brilliant. That room, unlike the first one, if I'm not mistaken, the first room, the tile room has where you can kind of cut out a little early. That one right there is you're obligated to go through the entire skull and crossbone design before you can move on. Is that correct?
Yeah, in that room you can't skip. You can't skip anything.
So beautiful.
You have to wait all the tiles.
Oh no.
Oh.
I think we might have seen an accidental home button press. So we made mention of this earlier. Of course, these are being played on the Super Nintendo, native Super Nintendo emulation / program on the Nintendo Switch.
Sorry to cut you off, but Great White North should be using a mirror at this point. If you use a mirror, it resets you to the beginning of the dungeon.
Oh, very nice. Okay. But he's kind of.
I also want to give a shout out to Dad Little Podcast. Sorry to cut you off, but he had like no health. He's still like just trekking his way through. That's just pretty darn impressive.
Absolutely
I love
tenacious.
This is actually not a bad death by Great White North, because you fill up your health and you go back to the start. But for viewers, if you do want to play this game, whether it's casually or to race, the mirror takes you back to the start of the dungeon, which is a very helpful strategy because it helps cut down on the backtrack.
So in this case, we could see it's feasible to believe that instead of using the mirror, that GWN decided instead to take a death and to use that death to go ahead and spawn him. Arguably, there's a little bit of a time loss between that and using the mirror, but at the same time, it's much faster than attempting to do the backtrack.
And he falls down one of the floors, as you can see here. There is a safety, but I'm just marveling at Dead Little Podcast having no health and just not getting hit. That's just, I can't stop to, I don't know, I just can't stop noticing.
The absolute Viking way of this is just to take it no holds barred.
Ooh, there's a heart though right there. He bypassed the heart though. In that pot though, there's gonna be a heart on the right there, top right. I wish I could talk to him. But I mean,
you have to respect that not only is he going through this just guns blazing, obviously sword blazing, but that he's at the same time the razor focus it must take for him to be doing all of this with a half heart, and he's had this half heart now for a good amount of this temple. So
I mean, his heart's into it. So if you go in one of that screen there on one of those pits, there are fairies to get. So if you are playing this for a race or casually, there's pots here too. Oh, pick up those hearts. Oh,
and he's almost to the hole.
This is so nail biting.
It absolutely is. And for the frame of reference, the boss fight is just beyond the door there, as you can see, demarcated by the Doom-esque, Diablo-esque skull. Those pots all contain hearts, if I'm not mistaken, so that should help with that beeping. And
also in this game, I'm sorry to cut you off. In the first Zelda, once you're low at health, you notice you hear that like heart beep sound. That's what if viewers are happen to be hearing that. That's also in this game as well. Not in Zelda 2 though, which is interesting. I don't believe Zelda 2 had this, so this game kind of brings that back up. But there are fairies though on the 5th floor. If you fall into a pit, you go get the fairies and then you go right back. It's a really good safety strategy.
For those of you who haven't,
go ahead.
Sorry. For those of you who haven't played this particular one, the boss in this particular part is less about damage and more about frustration, as he's kind of a rubbery, bouncy ball that will bounce you right off the edge just like that. So DLP obviously doing the great job of trying to mitigate that as best as possible, falls subject to something that we're probably going to see a little bit of here and there. And this particular dungeon/temple acclimates you to that with the little bouncy tiles in the room prior. So it kind of acclimates you to the concept of gravity and the concept of being bounced around well before this in preparation. So
with this particular fight, the only way to damage Moldrum is the sword. And it's going to take 6 hits no matter what sword attack you do. If it's a spin slash or a dash or a poke, it's going to be 6 hits. After the 5th hit, he's going to start going super, super fast. That's what, like right now, yes, and fast.
Ooh.
So he's 1 hit away. And he got really close. So Great White North was also at Moldrum. If you noticed earlier, there were some like little Moldrums that looked like, I guess they called them baby Moldrums. So now you got the big one here. And Great White North is, I think, great GG, well
beautifully
played.
done, GWN. Very well done to collect that heart, well on his way. That's 3rd pendant collected. Now, each time you're bumped off, that starts the hitbox back, or the hit counter back for Moldrum, yes?
Yes, his health restores.
Yep.
So it takes 6 hits to kill him. So if you hit him, let's say 5 times, and you fall off, you still have to hit him 6 more times, because his health does get fully replenished. Great White North using the 5th and last save and quit.
Remembering your I was going to say mnemonic, but it's not really a mnemonic. It's just a good remembrance. High 5. So remember 5 of those throughout this.
High 5. 5 times you're going to be using save and quit. And high 5 to everyone else who took the time to check in today. I do want to appreciate that. And
Awazram says, forgive me if I've mispronounced that, but Awazram is what I think I have there. Oof, this boss is so irritating with the knockback. Yes, absolutely is. Please note that we will be stopping the timer at the first one to reach the Master Sword, so we'll watch that out. And again, please understand that there is a little bit of lag, so whatever was on the timer before you saw them hit, or by the time you saw them hit start, would be subtracted from that total time. So that's probably going to bring them closer to that, closer to about a half minute to a minute less than what you actually are seeing here.
And looks like Great White North did not get lost in the Lost Woods. And he's going to pick up the Master Sword, and GG's for Great White North. Skipping the Sanctuary Heart. He did have a couple deaths, but he just came back really strong. Has some really good strategies that was being used. And Dad Level Podcast is almost done here with
beautiful.
And GG, well played. This was a really fun race to watch and be a part of.
Definitely. So we see the time on that first one there, we've got it 40:16, probably a little bit closer to something around the neighborhood of 40:10 or 40:09. That's probably closer, and of course they will have what they actually have on their timer. Now, if I'm not mistaken, really quickly, we probably will go to a BRB screen while they reset and maybe ask them what they were feeling, what was happening, going through their mind during the race. Does that sound? Is that what we were planning on doing here? Is that kind of middle interview for just a moment?
Yeah, that's always cool to have. This is the first of 2 races that we're having. So this was race number 1. We figure we'll do a little bit, be right back, maybe a little more interview with the runners, and then we'll do a second and last race.
Absolutely. And of course, the chat showing their GGs to GWN. Fantastic run. And we're seeing DLP again, not far behind. This was definitely something that was pretty darn close, and it was anyone's race. The whole way through. I'm anticipating that the second race won't be any different. It's going to be, I think, very neck and neck, and we could very possibly see GWN take another victory. We could very possibly see DLP tie it up. I'd love to be able to do a tiebreaker, but I know we're crunched for time, so 2 races. But very, 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 very skilled races right here, both of them.
Yeah, I want to say that it's always cool to have like a friendly rivalry too, like with someone. Depending on no matter what the second result is, Dad Level Podcast and Great White North could always be having their rivalry with this game or any other game or anyone else. If you want to have like a friendly rivalry with someone else, that's what I love about racing. And GG to DLP for completing the run and trekking through. I just loved how he had like half of a heart. He just kept on going. Yeah. So I thought that really had a big smile on my face.
No, definitely, and I'm eager to speak with him about that actually. So I hope in the quick little intermission interview that we can kind of talk on that. He's got heart, SB says. Yeah, that is definitely correct. Big GGs to GWN and DLP both for having done what I consider to be a wonderful first run out of this run of 2. I think what we're going to do for just a moment, if we can, is we're going to go ahead and bring ourselves over to the BRB screen. And I think if we can, maybe we can get a little bit of, maybe we can get. I'm going to cut the music out really quickly. But I think maybe we can get. Hopefully, we can speak with GWN and DLP and see what they were kind of going through and thinking and feeling at that time. Can we bring them back on by chance?
I'm here.
Perfect.
Hello.
Wonderful. Thumb, if you I'm teching really quickly, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. Do you mind asking the first questions while I get this situated?
Sure. Yeah, GG's, both of you guys, Great White North and Dad's Little Podcast. Great race. That was really fun to commentate and watch. It was I had a lot of fun watching this. Yeah, how about before I ask a question, like maybe just do like a free talk. Like what are some of your thoughts racing this for the first time?
For me, I think it was just the mistakes I was making. I was frustrated. I was like,
oh yeah. I mean, how did it feel though? Oh yeah, go ahead, Great White North.
Oh, sorry. I same thing. Totally the same thing.
But like for a first race, like you said, both of you guys. I just thought to finish that race, like I feel like this next race is going to be really exciting to see because I feel like you guys have a good chance of, I guess, polishing up those spots where you felt like were trouble. Is there a boss fight that you feel like? Which of the 3 boss fights do you feel like you want to work on for the next race?
I mean, since there's RNG involved, it's really hard to kind of like determine that. I mean, I think we both had the strategy down for taking them out, for sure.
I thought you guys did relatively well on Moldrum, to be honest with you, because like you guys fell about a couple times, which when I raced them the first time, I fell twice. And I thought you guys bounced back pretty well. I thought you guys did well with the Moldrum fight. I think the worm fight, in my opinion, is the trickiest fight if you're going with no bottles or fairies.
Yeah.
I do want to say, Dad Law Podcast, when you were at Tower of Hera, you had like, I was just like, I had a big smile on my face because you had half a heart left in your energy bar. I was just wondering, like, what were you, how did you feel about it? Was your heart pounding? Did you feel like you had to go, okay, I got to play this a little bit safer. I got to mind my surroundings, one step at a time, so to speak.
I mean, a little bit, but I mean, it's one of those things when you play this game enough, you kind of know where certain things are and how the enemies react. And it's like, sometimes it's not too bad, but I don't know. I'm used to like putting it right down to the wire to do something. So, but the good thing is like for this race, I kind of got my jitters out, so I should be better with the next one.
I guess one of the questions that I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Oops.
I was going to say, I guess one of the questions that I have for the both of you, or for either of you who would like to, we saw in this one, we saw you take some strats, obviously very talented strats that take time to acclimate to, but we saw some strats that were also a little bit safer. On the second race, now that you have those jitters out, are you anticipating taking some more aggressive strats, perhaps something like in the anti-fairy room, or are we expecting to kind of see these strats that you've used in the first one kind of just at their apex now that the jitters are kind of free?
I don't know. It just matters on the race.
True enough.
It's just take it as it comes.
Well, I just want to say that, like, in the future, these races here at Dad Little Podcast at Great White North, I definitely see them racing more in the future. And once they get more comfortable with the game, especially in a race setting, I'm pretty sure they'll cut down on the time. I know they have their own personal goals too, Like, do you have a certain target goal you would like to have for the second race, like a sub 40, sub 35?
Not this time around, but maybe in the future.
I think, and I want to make sure that it's not lost on this. Looking at the strategies and such, just as a curiosity or morbid curiosity, both of the races that we saw here, not only were they neck and neck, not only were they both very, I mean, these were great races. Both of the races that you guys put forth. So it's just obviously it's a curiosity about how you're going to go about this next race. But please don't let that take away from. You guys did famously for these first pair of races. This is really fun to watch. So.
Oh no, I had a lot of fun. I gave tons of compliments to both of you guys during the races. Like, you guys were neck and neck, going back and forth. I was really just impressed how you guys just kept going. And if you did take a death somewhere, you made those improvements on a second go around, like the worm fight. You guys did really great on the second visit. And yeah, and I just think that you guys had fun too. I think that's the most important thing. Is if you make a mistake, like, so what? Like, just keep going. And I had a blast watching it. It was great to see. And I also was like, I got a little bit. I was like, whoa, Great White North skipped the heart container in Sanctuary, and I was like, wow, he's the first one to do that in the community in a race setting. So I thought that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I was going to say, between seeing a strategic skip of a heart container and then and then also seeing someone tenacious enough to just go at it, several floors, several enemies with a half heart. I mean, we got the best of both worlds on both sides, and I think that's phenomenal. So,
thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Very, very impressive. Again, on both ways. I guess I will go ahead and take a moment to say thank you again to everybody who's in the chat, who's popped in, who's offered their support to both of these great racers, and of course, I'm offering that to you who are here live, as well as to those of you who come in after the fact. Goodness, thank you very much. If you would like to show further support to these guys, I do recommend checking their channels out. All linked in the description below. Check these guys out. This is just a taste of what these guys offer, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun. So, and I just realized I'm on a starting soon, but of course that is technically applicable. So, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and ask if does everybody need a moment to get ready? Should we jump right back into it, or do we need a brief intermission for everybody?
I'm ready to go, but I mean, it's up to you guys.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Wanting to hear back from one.
You got this, DLP.
Oops.
So you got in it.
Okay, everybody's good. All right. Okay, let me get it moved back over then. Timer's already reset and we're good to go. And thank you very much, Thumb, for dropping those links also into the chat. As we continue to grow and we continue to work on this, we are going to be working on more expeditious ways to have these types of things streamlined with Streamlabs and prompts and the like. But for now, very much thank you for that. Let's go ahead and jump back over to our versus screen. And we've got our timer reset, both of them again at their in the main menu here. We're going to do the same thing as we did before. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. On go, it's going to happen. And again, just to preface it for everybody else, there's a little bit of delay as we're handling this from 4 different remote locations. So there's going to be a little bit of latency. If you'd like a more accurate time, just when you see their screens start, whatever the time is on the timer, subtract that from the total, and you're going to have a much more accurate timer for those of you who are a little bit more specific on that. All right, so just to make sure I get my okays, are both racers ready to go for the second race?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Perfect. All right, we'll do the countdown from 5 to go. And ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
So this is the second and last race of the Master Sword. I just want to also say that what you're going to see here is a Zelda staple, Zelda series staple, where just the first time in a Zelda series where Link starts up, he's fallen asleep. And every Zelda game since, even Breath of the Wild, most recently, Link is sleeping. So I know I kind of repeat that trivia or lore, but it's just always a cool thing. because this was like sort of the, and also this is the first time where you have a family member be in a story. So this is Link's uncle, and I don't think it was like until like Wind Waker where you see another family member, like Link's sister, especially being in the opening scene. It's a little bit of like a callback. I kind of like call this like a callback to Star Wars Episode 4, where Princess Leia needs help from Obi-Wan. So it's like Zelda is speaking telepathically, asking for help. And this is the first Zelda game to have a story in the first dungeon. Like, my love for this game is just, there's no limit.
In this one we see Uncle, and in Wind Waker we see, I think, both sister and grandmother, and so this definitely, I mean, they've definitely done a lot, though, I think, in future iterations to pay a lot of homage to this game. I feel like that this game, even perhaps a little bit more than Ocarina of Time, gets paid homage to in future iterations, or starts a lot of the trends and tropes that have kind of become staples of Zelda or Legend of Zelda series, such as the Lazy Link trope, such as seeing Hyrule and Lorule, not only with Link Between Worlds, but also with, I guess with Link Between Worlds in addition to Link to the Past. And so this game, I think, I personally am going to opine on this, that I think that this game of its time was and is and remains a cultural phenomenon in all iterations, be it these retro ones or obviously the newer ones that have taken and paid homage to the older ones here. So,
well, you know what? Retro's still alive. Like, and the fact that these two runners, two cool people in the community, took the time to race this game keeps the game even more alive than ever. And if you look too, it just looks like a good, clean game. Like, look at the graphics, look at the artwork. It's very polished. The music is this music here is a Zelda staple. This is a Hyrule Castle theme. At the opening, you heard the file select screen when the runners were on. That's another Zelda staple. Just the game looks great, and also there's randomizers. There's just so much to do with this game. Randomizers open a whole other window, and I think for the future with these races, particularly Zelda Link to the Past, we would love to see randomizers, of course, too, and
absolutely
the full game also too. So there's just so much in store that you can do.
I love that you said that too. I was panicked for a second. You said retro is still alive, and I'm sitting here checking my pulse going, I hope I am. But at the same time, I think you're exactly right when you're talking about retro still being alive. I think that a lot of games today have taken inspiration, not just from Zelda, obviously, but retro in general, with the indie crowd being one of the more favorable in the game industry right now. And I think that when we start to see people having a return to form with retro and the restored interests in people racing these games, helping to kind of stoke that, I think there's a bright future for the retro community, and I think there's a bright future, obviously, for these two racers within that retro community, because my goodness, they make this game, which already looks clean, even cleaner with their pathing and with their weapon usage and just absolute expertise in this game. Very nice.
GG's to both in sync, getting that big key, both talking to Princess Zelda. Dad Level Podcast does not have the boomerang. Maybe I skipped seeing that, but that was just a really good strat they use against the boss there. Using the 2-pot strat, that's a really good go-to strat, and I just think the cool thing about these guys, what I love about Dad Level Podcast and Great White North is they kind of just have their attitude is like, let's just have fun, let's experiment, let's explore. And one of those cases is Dad Level Podcast skipping the boomerang, which is so cool to do.
I guess I want to take that opportunity to kind of piggyback and make it what I would consider to be a PSA, personal PSA, is my opinion. But I think that this is what this is all about right now. We have a couple of great racers within a racing community, within a retro community, that are coming together to race for the sake of fun. This is not about the best time, not making mistakes, no death runs, perfection, because then that takes, in my opinion, it takes a lot of the fun out of gaming. This is about people showing their knowledge and proficiency of a game that they're passionate about and that they love, and it just so happens to be a retro game which also contributes to the retro revival. So same situation, if you're interested in getting involved in this is a great community to be a part of, because it isn't about the perfection, it isn't about doing it just perfectly, just right. It's about having fun, doing it the best you possibly can, and being a part of a great community of people who are willing to support and lift you up, as we are to the remainder of that community. So brilliant people here.
Well, the thing too, though, is you could always get a PB, like a PB or a personal best. So right now, Great White North and Dad Level Podcast have a racing PB because they both completed it. Everyone has a racing PB. Omega, Shode, Mazin, myself, and Paul Tessie, we all have our own personal best. And you never know, you might even get a PB, personal best, in a race, which makes it even better. Like I know, like you said, it doesn't have to be perfect gameplay, but sometimes the more you race, you just never know. You might get that PB, your best run in a race, which makes it even cooler. And I always say, like, it's just, what you said, it's all about having fun. I just find it very endearing when you race someone that you know. I think that makes it a little bit more meaningful. And it's just really cool. Again, I probably said it a million times. It's just really cool to see this. I'm having a great time. And thanks again for asking your questions, your inputs, and your commentary.
Thank you, and thank you all for having me here. Not just the racers for being patient and tolerant with us as we kind of work through our pre-stream teching. Also for you, Thumb, for helping out with all of this, for helping me with the teching, and for helping to organize this. I think, if possible, any cheers and support that you might want to show to Thumb are certainly well deserved. And his channel is also down below, so please definitely go and give him a watch. And I think I have you both. I think I have both your YouTube and your Twitch down there. So, but it's super fun. Again, this is all about having fun, and I agree with you. I think having those friendly rivalries, and the key word being friendly, is really fun and important. So. Wonderful. And
thank you for the compliments. Both runners making it through the sewers. There is some RNG with the enemies in the sewers. You can get some annoying, like, snakes, bats, mice, rats, all the good animals and whatnot. So it's a funny dungeon, kind of, in a way.
Also,
again, Dad Level Podcasts picking up the heart, and Great White North skipping the heart.
And also at that point, just going ahead and making that, up until that point right there, they were within one frame of each other. So that is how close this is. Right now, it's only just a smidge farther, but even still, they were within one frame of each other in that text box, or in that text section, I should say.
I know, as a racer, for me, I've sort of adopted now. I like to see where my opponent is. It doesn't change my strategy per se, but it just kind of gives me some comfort to know, like, okay, we're at the same screen. And it's, I know, like, when I first raced running retro Super Mario Brothers, I kind of did it blind, not knowing where he was. But now I feel like, for me, it just gives me that comfort knowing where my other opponent is.
That brings me, I guess, to a question. Whenever you said it doesn't change your strategy, but do you feel, does it kind of increase the urgency, or does it? Do you kind of get a different? If you see that your opponent's a little bit behind you, does it kind of feel? Oh, I need to push forward a little bit more. I need to push forward with a little bit more certainty, or does it give you that kind of raise in morale of, oh well, I've got 5 frames ahead, or I'm in this hall and they're still in a room behind. How do you feel? How does that gauge or support your mentality while playing, if not changing your strategy?
Before I answer that question, this room ahead is, again, this is the first tricky room I feel Great White North is in, and Dad Level Podcast. And, it's okay to use those pots. Those pots are a really good strat to use. And you can see Great White North doing it really well. And Dad Level Podcast, they're both cleaning this up pretty good. As for racing, I do feel like it is nice to know that if you're like 10 seconds ahead or 15 seconds ahead, I would generally probably do a safer strat. Generally, like but if I'm a little bit behind and you kind of have to do a riskier strat, you kind of have to, right? Because otherwise you'll lose the race. But I try to just focus on my personal best during a race. I always say there's a personal best while racing, and I kind of say, like, okay, if I lose 10 seconds by getting this or whatever, like a health or something, that's fine. Because I'm also going for my own PB as well.
And a good point out showed being awesome and pointing out things that perhaps we've missed commentary on, or things certainly that are worth looking out for the chat. For those who don't know, with DLP skipping the boomerang and GWN skipping a heart container, we're seeing two different strategic skips in this, and we're actually seeing a really interesting different play style, even from what we were seeing them do before. So this is very, very interesting to see. It's going to be very interesting to see how this affects or impacts them. We also notice that they are still neck and neck in the anti-fairy room now. So
I love the blue boomerang. The boomerang is my favorite item in this game, so I can't play it without it. I just love the boomerang. I could see why Dad Little Podcast is skipping the boomerang. If they're not going to use it that much, it's going to definitely save some time on the menu screen, because it's sort of like a Mega Man games. If the viewers out there who are familiar with Mega Man, there's a lot of menuing at times, like when you change your weapon. There's a lot of going in, out of the menu, and then in Zelda games, there's that also. So, Dad Level Podcast, if he's not going to use the boomerang originally, probably is saving time here as well.
And we noticed that one of the big parts in previous races that we've done, or that we've seen, we've noticed that the boomerang gets used a lot in the tile rooms, where that's usually kind of a supplement to the sword. DLP in his last run didn't actually use the boomerang in the tile room at all. He used the charge sword technique. So DLP now doing his signature, where he's going to bring that in, and he's on a half heart. Just bludgeoning through. Okay, so he's
nice heart pickup by DLP.
Yeah.
If you're racing this game, or even just going for your PB, you want to know where the safety hearts are. It's very important, and that was a really good pickup by DLP right there. This room here is right. There's a heart right there. There's a way to pick up those pots so you don't take damage from those anti-fairies. You're gonna go right, top left, and then bottom left, and you will never get hit. DLP using a strat there, going behind the eye guy, and then there's a switch there. This room here that DLP in is very tricky to go as the fastest you can. Arrows are probably the quickest, arrows and pots, but using the pots there is a good strat there. This guy, you need to be close to him to wake him up. This room here is very tricky to get the fastest you can. You gotta hit these eye guys in one go. And let's see how he does. He came really close though, and even if you don't get it, you can still pick up some safety. So Dad Little Podcast has a really good amount of arrows. He has 29 arrows.
Very nice. And kind of following that advice that you had given last time, now the arrows in this case happen to be against the Armos Knights, happen to be incredibly potent as they are against the Worm fight. So the rule seems to be, with exception to the Moldorm fight, the rules seem to be having arrows is good. That's pretty well the bottom line.
Arrows are really powerful in this game. You get it really early in the first dungeon, and it really does come into play, particularly with the worm boss. Even though Dad Little Podcast is at the boss fight, this is still anyone's game. As you can see, he does take a death there.
Yeah, takes a quick death to an Armo. So very, 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 very impressive strategy. Very impressive. The thing I think that we can see in DLP, if we wanted to develop, in my opinion, right now, a strategy, or not a strategy, excuse me, a trademark, is DLP's absolute tenacity. It reminds me of the Tom Cruise scene in Last Samurai, where the guy keeps beating him up and he just keeps getting up and taking it. No worries. DLP definitely showing tenacity reigns supreme.
Yeah. Both runners are showing that grit and tenacity, that rocky mentality, going this distance. You know, that was one of my favorite movies, 1977, Rocky, which came out around the same time as Star Wars, which is really impressive when you think about it. The message of that movie was, I went the distance. I feel like sometimes that's not emphasized a lot. Everyone just looks at like, oh, you lost or you didn't win, and it's like, well, I competed. I gave it my best, and I had fun. That's a victory in itself. And keep in mind too, both of these runners they could still have a really good desert palace, second dungeon. They could have a really good third dungeon. There's a lot of positives to take in a race. Like, at least that's how I see it. If I feel like I kind of hit some obstacles, no pun intended, to these balls, like there's still something that you could look forward to, a certain strat that you might want to improve on the next go around. A certain boss fight you want to get better. So there's always some positives to take away.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing a lot of grit from both races here. We're seeing a lot of strategy and technique done very, very expertly, and we're definitely seeing, again, we're seeing the tenacity of it. Now, of course, when I'm speaking of tenacity for DLP, I'm talking about that half heart going at it, but we definitely see tenacity in both of them, who at this point have each taken a death, have gotten back up, are going at it. And we see GWN entering into the Armos boss, or the Armos Knights fight, and with a healthy or decently healthy supply of arrows.
With this boss fight, there are three different ways to go about this fight. I like to go to top left strat. It's not as fast as like the world record route or something, but if you go in the top left and then you fire down. Great fight by Great White North.
Absolutely.
If you go on the top left and then you fire down and you just stay on the left side, it's a really good safety strat and quick at the same time. The fastest strat is you go on the bottom right. It's the reason why you go on the bottom right or top right, because you're hitting that red guy. His health respawns somehow. I'm not an expert at that, but if you hit him early in the cycle, like you could get him a little bit earlier. By going on the top left, his health is going to respawn. I just like going top left because it's just safer and still fast too.
Very, very nice. And a good fight there from DLP collecting the first pendant. Very, very nice.
So here's an interesting safety strat that you can use. In the Tower of Hera, if you want to, like, both Great White North has a one bomb. If you want to get bombs, you crash into that skull wall, and against those baby Moldrums on the 4th floor in the Tower of Hera, the last dungeon, you could throw bombs behind pots actually, and if you're low at health, that's a good safety strat to use against those like baby Moldrums. So again, this game just shows you the different approaches that you can kind of do or cook up, and I just love how each item or weapon has a certain use or strategy. It's just really clever game design.
The game definitely has. In this game, again, very, very, not necessarily that it feels streamlined, but it definitely feels like every aspect of it was thought out very well. And we see two experts here basically handling that to its absolute zenith. So this game was well designed, and it has a kind of path for you. We see them understanding that path and executing their navigation through that path with expert speed and precision. So very, very impressive. And again, at this point, I still think that it is anyone's race. They're not far enough off each other that I think that this is in the bag for either of them just yet. So,
oh yeah. This game is very fun to watch in a race because someone could be at a boss fight, and then someone else could be entering that dungeon, like maybe 3 minutes behind, and then someone could die at the boss, and then all of a sudden the tables are equal now.
Absolutely.
With this thing, you want to hit that library wall. You want to run into it. When I first played this game, I was like, how do you get this book? Like, because I wandered off. I didn't have the running shoes. Or if I did have the running shoes, I was like, what's a book doing on top of the library?
Yeah, and so we did see a couple of bonks there, but we also see we see a death taken by GWN. We also see DLP had a little bit of issue with bonking around the Book of Bedora, but both have been able to jump back up, recover very quickly. So DLP spawning back at Sanctuary, and GWN pathing back to or heading to the second palace.
So if you are playing this for the first time, and if you want to do a good safety, there are two approaches you can do. Before entering the first dungeon, with those 6 knights, you could go to that town where you got the book, the village, and pick up a couple bottles at the ferry. Or the second route is you could pick up, when you get the book, you could pick up the bottles then. You need $100, $100 to buy a bottle, which you can get in the dungeon itself, $100 with that big ballroom, the first room with all the balls. Or where that old man is with the shoes, you can get $100. And then there's a bottle hidden where the net guy is. You got to get this net also. So it only costs you about 20 to 30 seconds to get those 2 bottles, but it's a really good peace of mind, I feel.
A good safety strat to make up for the time lost there. So, and again, both of them being neck and neck using the Book of Medora and getting into the first level of this desert palace here. Very, very close still.
Yeah, both runners, these guys love Zelda. They love A Link to the Past. And you can see, if you play this game for the first time, this is where the dungeon gets a little bit tricky. If you also notice, the runners are skipping a lot of doors, you see. With this particular game, also in the Dark Worlds, for the full game, you are going to skip about, I would say, half the rooms in the dungeons if you want to go as fast as you can. They're both skipping the compass. They're both skipping. That's the compass right there. So if you notice, they're both skipping a lot of stuff here.
We're going to go ahead and really quickly address the chat. Zombie JLT1 says, sorry everybody, I passed up the meds, LOL. No worries, Zombie, we're just flattered to have you here. Thank you so much for coming in and saying hi and being a part of this. I guess the thumb, I have a quick question for you, something I haven't really mentioned, although I've kind of made the word, or mentioned the word, but there's a big importance in this run about bonking. Is that not correct? I mean, you bonk to get the Book of Medora, you bonk to get the key, and sometimes in order to set up for optimal pathing, you bonk in order to do that as well. Specifically, one that I can think of as the worm fight, you can actually bonk on the wall there to set yourself up for an ideal position to hit the first non-RNG paths of the worm. Is that correct? Is bonking that big of a deal in this game? I mean, is that an expert strat? I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, there's 2 things of bonking. One is you want to limit. Sometimes when you get these running shoes, you want to just run as much as you can in the screens. It does cut down on time. I think DLP forgot the Affinity Gauntlet. Sometimes that could happen. You forget a particular weapon. If you bonk into something by accident, it does add up to time in terms of a time loss. In terms of boss fights, yes, there are a couple occasions. That worm fight, I like to bonk, running into the wall, and it sets you up for like a nice visual. It does help a lot in that fight, I feel.
And that's kind of what I mean. Bonking, obviously, we know you have to do it to get the key. We know you have to get it to get the book of I was about to say the wrong thing, but we know you have to get it to get the Book of Medora. I was about to say Mazora, but the Book of Medora. Yeah, I was different Zelda thing. But you know you have to get it to get the Book of Medora, and you know you have to get it to get the keys, and then of course some setup. But then on the other side of things, bonking, like you said, is going to add up a lot of that time too. So if we're taking a look at this, we ideally should only see maybe 3 or 4 bonks total. And if we don't see that, then what we might be seeing is a small time gain that can kind of add up over time.
I do want to address something. Dad Level Podcast, on his screen there, there's something in terms of bonking, there's something called key door dashing, which is like a super advanced strat. I don't really do it right now. Oh, Great White North takes a death for the tile room. He's gonna come back though. On the right there, really good checkpoint right there.
And please do.
By the way, this is the first dungeon. This is the first dungeon in Zelda history where it features an outside area as an intermission. That's pretty darn cool. I do like that little lore right there.
Kind of a segmented one. Really quickly,
like a little
intermission.
Oops.
I was a really quick apology for the teching. I was just trying to make sure that everything was still synchronized. So that visibility of the bar for a moment there. My apologies.
Oh yeah, no worries.
And to you, Thumb, I apologize. So back to you. I'm sorry to have interrupted.
Oh yeah, no problem. I think I was talking about something but bonking, but oh yeah, the key door dash thing. That's like a super advanced strat where you can run into the door without stopping. I run by the door and I stop for a second and then I go into the door. But there's a certain strat. Mega Retro Man, big shout out to Paul Tessie for able to do the key door dash. So that was really cool to do.
And
you get a little intermission here. Sometimes in this game on Great White North's stream, you get like those little pauses of like you have to wait for something. And we're at the worm fight.
And we're at the worm fight for both of them right here. So they've basically gone through, again, those first three moves for the worms are going to be, those first three moves for the worms are going to be scripted moves where you can position yourself into a specific, or in a specific way so you can take them out or get a first several hits, bow and arrow or sword on them. After that, it is pretty well RNG, as you can see now between the two of them. The worms are not really giving any sort of real rhyme or reason, except for to telegraph with a small kind of hole before they come up and attack.
Well, they are worming their way through, both my friends. I know it's cheesy fun, but I just like to use a pun just to keep things light.
No, that's perfect.
This fight is really scary. Great White North using his arrows there, really nice.
And we both
Dad Level Podcast also fit off on his last worm.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about. Just because both runners took a death in the first dungeon, they are playing phenomenal. Great White North finishes off the worm. It looks like, and Dad Level Podcast finishes off the worm also. So the fact that both of these guys, like I had to watch my language, but they both did a really good job. I was gonna say speak of some profanity, but I always keep it family friendly. But they did a darn good job right there. So GG's. That's awesome. And really impressed on the first try too.
And both collecting their pendants within frames of each other, so we can actually see that now. Within just a couple of seconds of each other, we see them spawning back.
And they both use the fourth save and quit, the second to last save and quit. So there'll be one more save and quit where they use like a shortcut to go back and cut down on backtracking.
For anybody who's really specific on the nomenclature of Zelda, the worms are actually called, how do you say it, Landmola? But any which way, that's the, for anybody who's really specific on the nomenclature.
Lamolas.
Yeah. Okay, that's got a much better flow when you say it than what I said.
I believe they sort of making somewhat of an appearance in the first Zelda as levers, like those enemies that pop up from the sand.
Yes, yeah. I think you're right. I think this is the natural evolution to them. I made this again obligatorily. I just for anybody who's watching this again after the fact or maybe didn't catch the first race. This part right here is this is one of the parts where when we've done it in the past, it's one of those things where why not going faster? Why not this? This part is throttled. You have to wait. You have to go the speed that he needs you to go. You have to listen to him and skip through the text boxes. And in this case, this is where we talked about from the very beginning, skipping those text boxes by mashing B or any other button really except for X, so as not to go into the menu, because we're no longer at that entrance stage where we have that luxury. We can now menu accidentally. So
this is a really tough part in the game right here. You see these little small enemies here. Those guys are really tough. Like they are random. They're very RNG. So a good safety strat is, as soon as you enter that area, like when you enter from the cave, you want to charge your sword and hold your sword, and then you'll poke them and freeze them. Both runners doing a really good safety, talking to the old guy. He does restore your health, which is really cool. That's a nice callback to Zelda 2. In Zelda 2, NPC characters restore your health certain in towns. I do think that's kind of cool. Nice little homage there. Those rocks are also RNG too. It could be kind of rocky.
And that's kind of, I think, one of the key points where you made the reference. I think in Zelda 2, it was specifically a certain sprite, a female sprite. that would restore your health. And in this one, it happens to kind of be at random intervals. In the Master Sword race, we're talking about the old man. But that's important because those boulders being RNG, we saw DLP actually take a death to those in the first race because of how absolutely spontaneous they can be and how damaging they are. So that was good to have a moment of safety strat there for that, if nothing else, for that reason. So.
I guess during the interview, I should have mentioned the Great White North because he probably it's just a case where he forgot. But you could use the mirror to transport back to the start of the dungeon. I probably should have just given that reinforcement. But yeah, no worries. There are different. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying. Now we've made our way to what I like to call the Switch Palace, beginnings of the Tower of Hera. And we're noticing in this point where DLP is this tile room again. The strat that I've seen done most often, I do see the charged sword, which he does expertly here on the left. I've seen it done at the bottom of the screen. I also see a lot of people traditionally default to using the boomerang. He does not have that luxury. He did not pick up the boomerang. So he's really dependent on being expert with his sword moves, which you can see he's doing quite well.
You don't need to use the boomerang per se for this room. I'll say there's two reasons why I like to use the boomerang. One is just looks cool. It looks so
absolutely
good. I love the boomerang. It also does cut some time on the last tile.
Sure.
If you hit the last tile with a boomerang, you can stand by the door. So it does save like 2 seconds or so there.
Well, I guess one of the questions I guess I would have, in that you say the last tile, it seemed like when people would throw, there's only a specific point in time where the tiles become damageable, correct? Because I've seen people where they attempt to basically hit it with the boomerang a couple of frames before it would actually come in front of them, whereas with the sword it can only be a couple of pixels in front of you. The boomerang, you can feasibly hit it several pixels out. Does that save a substantial amount of time?
I think it does. I think it could add up in time. That's something I thought too when using the boomerang, because you could hit the tile earlier. Right. Not just the last tile, but the other tiles.
Right. We although DLP and that gravity, very nice.
And DLP with one heart left as well. There are going to be some safety hearts though. Oh, those guys are tough though. Those octopuses. And Great White North, I think, used the mirror.
We'll do a fun fact for people. This is a grammar fact, but I love the fact that you use the word octopuses there. This was something just side pocket.
Octopi?
Octopode is the appropriate.
Oh, octopode. Okay.
Yeah, pi is Latin and Greek. Octopode is all Greek. Octo is a Greek prefix. So anyway, just nerd randomness. I actually like the sound of octopuses better than any of them. So
nerd alert. No, just kidding.
It definitely is. But I like the sound of octopuses better personally. But it was something I thought was interesting. I learned that way too late in life.
Those octopuses, I think this is their first appearance. I don't see a similar enemy in Zelda 1 and Zelda 2.
See, I always thought they were related to the Octo Rocks, even though they don't shoot the projectiles. I always thought they were some relative of the Octo Rock. Maybe that was my mind. Even now, well into adulthood, I have been for a long time, I still try to make my own headcanons for some of these weird things.
Yeah, that's a good reference. I just want to point out, it's a good idea if you're playing this for the first time or in a race, you want to make sure the blue blocks are closed before entering this floor here on the 5th floor. That way, there's going to be 12 pots open for hearts before you fight Moldrum. Over here, both runners are skipping the Moon Pearl. In the full game, you need the Moon Pearl, but for this run, see that big chest there? Mm-hmm. Kind of see a little bit of it. You don't need that for those. And both runners are neck and neck here.
Yeah. And again, making a reference to this, again, to prepare you for the Moldrum fight, you do actually have you have the holes for gravity, and you actually have the little bouncing pads in the middle there that kind of prepare you for what you've got coming with the Moldrum fight. But we see GWN just decided to go straight for it rather than using some of the pots to pick up additional hearts.
This is anyone's game. This is anyone's game here.
DLP's going for it as well. This is the gamer from chat really quick saying, someone step up and challenge me to a GTA 3 race. I couldn't begin to even tell you, I couldn't tell you anything about that game except for that I've played it casually. But welcome in nonetheless. And we actually see some pretty good zoning here with GWN keeping Moldorm contained and keeping himself well in the middle. very good strategy.
Yeah,
DLP taking.
Yeah, there are certain strategies too. As a good safety for this fight, you want to charge your sword as much as you can. If you do take damage and you hold the D-pad a certain direction while holding your sword, it'll prevent you from falling off.
Oh my goodness!
Falling off as much as you can. Great White North. Oh my
and
goodness.
DLP. Both of them almost simultaneously taking second pinned at GWN, having a slight lead here. This is really anyone's game, and it's going to come down to the pathing as they go to the Master Sword. That's what this is going to come down to.
These guys are great guys. They put on great. What a show! Like man, this is great to see.
This is brilliant.
This is a nail biter. It really fit the molds, that's for sure.
Well done. I would have blown that joke. I'm glad you came up with the right one, because I would have picked the wrong segment.
So this is where dashing is very important in this particular part. And bonking. You want to make sure you don't bonk into anything. And you see both runners are dashing. That little podcast came through. Oh, this is a close one.
Oh, and there's a bonk right there. If GWN can see DLP right now, I bet you he has got a couple of beads of sweat coming off his brow, because my goodness, it's close. We want to try to avoid enemies as well. Bonking isn't necessarily the only danger here.
So he went the longer route. You want to go left 2 screens, at least 2 screens. Ideally, you want to go 3 screens left. I think he went 1 screen left. But still, that's still an awesome run. I mean, this was a great race. GG to the Great White North, and GG to DLP, who's just literally right behind him.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to make note of this really quickly. Again, the timer here that we have in the center is somewhat mitigated because we do have some delays. We are trying to coordinate this from 4 separate locations with 4 different connectivities. And so I kind of stated, take a look at the very beginning. Whatever time you see on the clock, whenever they actually start, is going to be subtracted from the total time. But no matter how you measure this out, they did this almost 5 minutes faster than they did the first race. That is a substantial time. Well, actually, I'd say 4 minutes and change, but even still, 4 minutes and change faster than they did the first one, which is absolutely insane. That is a ridiculous time save. So 35:57, more likely is probably closer to somewhere around the neighborhood of 35:45-ish, maybe even a little less than that, which is really impressive. Very, very nice. Oh, that was a phenomenal race right there. So I guess, if you're all right, we bring them back in one more time, have a talk about it. Now that they've made a near 5-minute time save, see how they're feeling about things, and then we can go ahead and get ready to wrap up. Does that sound about right for you?
Yeah. This was a ton of fun. This is one of the funnest moments I've had in a stream. Man, this was great to see. I every minute, every second, I just had a smile on my face. This is why we wanted to do these races.
Absolutely. Let's jump into our BRB screen here for just a second. I am going to go ahead and take the audio out from the game and see if we can have our racers brought back in here. If you guys can hear me.
Yep. All good.
Perfect. And we have one more.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. This is a little bit quieter. I apologize. Guys, phenomenal job. Congratulations, GGs, and whatever other congratulatory language you would like, because that was a phenomenal race. The first one was wonderful. The second one, it's a 4 minute and change time save, no matter which way you slice it, over the last race, which is incredible. And you guys were neck and neck, collecting the Master Sword not but a few seconds apart from each other. I mean, now that you've got both races under your belt, not that you haven't done several races prior, how do you guys feel?
Sorry, you were cutting out.
Yeah, you cut out there, bud.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so sorry. Discord's a little finicky. Stream gets mine.
Yeah, I know.
I was saying with the you guys had a 4 minute and change time save from the first race. Is doing a phenomenal job on the first race, and then now even 4 minutes and change better on this race. And then on top of that, you collected the Master Sword within seconds of each other. How do you guys feel having both of these races in the books and with such impressive times?
as close as we were, I probably should have skipped my heart pickup, and I probably would have when I took it home.
it was all the way through.
Take the boomerang as well.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane. It was an absolute delight, absolute pleasure to watch. You guys did a wonderful job on both races. This race was an absolute nail biter. Watching how expertly, the first time we saw, again, you were talking about the jitters, but then we saw in the second one, the Moldorm fight done almost collecting the heart and pendant simultaneously, and then watching that pathing expertly. You guys, just absolutely killed it. So again, huge congratulations, and it just GG's all the way around. Thumb, really quick, I want to offer my congratulations. I'll offer a quick question, but I obviously we don't want to cut you out. What questions might you have for these guys? Because I know this was a nail biter for you too.
I don't know if it's questions per se. It's just more, I guess, just commenting or
sure,
or just giving huge compliments. Like I had a ton of fun watching you guys race. You guys, just seeing you guys were in sync most of the time. There was a lot of back and forth. Like it was so unpredictable to see who was going to win. Like you guys really bounced back too. Like you took a death in the first against those knights or whatever, but then you guys come back, finish strong, and then you guys both got the worm fight on the first go. Like you guys, like I was going to use a curse word, like I try to keep it family friendly, but I was like, these guys just did darn good. Like that's all I said. Like I was like, because I was so giddy. Like you guys did the worm fight really well. So just GG's. Like I was just really impressed how you guys just played this, and you guys did the Moldrum fight really darn well as well. You guys had a pretty good tower at Hera. Just overall, it was just fun to watch. That's just my just like
I guess,
Jason, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh man, it was a little bit more of a nail biter in the second round. I knew we were pretty close from what I was hearing, and
oh yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
It was interesting how, I was going to say is just like the first dungeon was actually the most problematic for some reason. I died, I think, twice or three times there, and the third dungeon, I was just flying through it. So I don't know.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I had made like a couple mistakes, especially not picking up the glove, and I was like, man, that cost me seconds.
Yeah, I heard them commenting down. I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Oh, so you do listen to the commentary? Like
I was listening to what I was playing. It didn't bother me. So
because I did bring up the mirror because I was like the Great White North. I was like during the after the first race, I was like, I wanted to bring up like you could use the mirror in the Tower of Hera to go back.
I forgot about it. Then you mentioned it, and I'm like, oh yes. I could use it.
So that's cool that you guys were listening in because I forgot too. I forgot you didn't pick up the power glove or whatever, and you were going outside and inside. I was like, what's happening? And then that does happen.
It does. It does. You're in the heat of the moment. You're like, oh wait, I just forgot. All right, I'm gonna go and backtrack here. You just deal with it.
I see DLP went ahead and hit it, but I'm going to go ahead and relay it to everybody. And I think this may include Thumb and perhaps even myself. But Disney Gamer does ask, do any of you use Link in Mario Kart 8? DLP, I know you answered, but you're welcome to do it vocally or verbally as well if you'd like.
Yeah, I definitely do. Link is one of my favorite characters.
I usually use Yoshi, but I should try out Link.
Okay. Thumb, who do you default to?
I love the original Super Mario Kart for Super Nintendo is probably my favorite, but Mario Kart 8, I do think it's cool to see Hyrule Castle as a stage, and I think Link is a really and Link is probably my favorite Super Smash Brothers character. Like I think it's cool in Super Smash Brothers. You have like adult Link, then you have like young Link, then you have Toon Link, then you have like Princess Zelda, then you have Ganondorf, then you have like I don't want to mispronounce it, but is it Sheik or something?
I think it's Cheek. Yeah, I said it wrong. one.
Yeah, I don't want to come off as like, but yeah, Super Smash Brothers. I think Link is my favorite character.
I will say, if for mine, if we want to go ahead and do Super Smash Brothers as well, I usually default to one of the Castlevania, one of the Belmonts. But I do use my second one is Ganondorf, and if we're talking about Mario Kart 8, sadly, I'm more inclined. I'm a King Boo guy, so that's usually me. I guess one of the things that I had made mention to, and this is, I guess, probably the most important question that I'm going to ask in this case. I made reference, obviously, a lot of people who see this community fresh, or even who have seen this community seasoned, have seen that there's a lot of pressure in a lot of communities where it's no death or deathless, and frame perfect this and perfect time this, perfect time that. And Thumb made mention about developing PBs and basically kind of doing the best you possibly can and continuing to push that envelope. But with all of that stuff put to the side for just a moment, the key point is: did you guys have fun?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, this is a blast. I enjoyed it a lot.
I really want to say thank you to everybody, by the way. Thank you both to GWN. I'm going to try and get these right. DLP and GWN, as well as Thumb, for having me, for allowing me to host and to commentate. I know that I'm a different flavor altogether. Certainly not as seasoned nor as expert in this, but I do try my best. I really appreciate your tolerance with me. And
no, it was a blast. With the commentary, I think there was not that much dead air. There was always someone talking. Yeah, I felt like we had a good back and forth, and good rapport, and just seeing this race just happen, it was just I gave compliments to you guys, because I said, like, you guys were like, we're just gonna have fun and just experiment a little bit, that little podcast, not using the boomerang, or not getting it. I was like, man, that's kind of cool. I was like, Great White North again, back to back, not picking up the Sanctuary Heart. Just like,
tell you, that's a dangerous move to play with. Like, if you're trying to do these races, make sure you start with that and get practice in there. It's a little harder without that extra heart.
I guess before we conclude, like, with Link to the Past, do you see yourself guys doing other type of things with A Link to the Past with racing, like randomizer, or would you like to first play the full game as a race, or like a relay race where like one of us does the light world and then your teammate does the dark world? I feel like there's a lot of things you can do with this game.
I am definitely down to do all of that.
Yeah, same here. I'm down.
Yeah, me too. And I know there are other people down too. It's a great game. I love this game. Love it.
I know that we're talking about. I have two questions before we conclude, if that's okay. And obviously, if you have more, Thumb, I don't want to interject or override. But the questions that I have, and again, obviously, this could be thinking for far future. This game has limitless potential, but I am just curious as to maybe it's on your respective channels, maybe it's within this community, maybe it's within other communities. What are races, if you could yourself organize a race or participate in your ideal organized race, what is the game that you would put above the rest as a priority, or the game that you would like to run?
You might have been cut off there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, your question was broken a little bit.
I tell you, it's this blasted Discord. I'm so sorry.
Or also, if you want to type it in the chat, maybe as a backup.
I could.
Or that's a little bit too long. But
it's a little bit. It's a little bit long. I tell you that so luckily we're broadcasting, so the chat can hear me. But I know Discord's a little finicky. So again, I apologize, and I appreciate you bearing with me. If you were participating, or again, maybe in this community, maybe in other communities, but wherever it might be, what would be, apart from this game, which has limitless potential, what game would be a game or games that you each might like to run as kind of an ideal or a pinnacle run for you?
Oh, okay. So like, which game or other games that are also you would like to see that you racing or other people racing.
Exactly. Well, and that they may like to participate. If you could just pick one, what would it be?
Well, to be the counterpart to this game, it would be Super Metroid.
Very nice. That's a
good choice.
So, am I to assume that you concur that might be your pick as well?
Yeah. Oh yes, that's one of my top 10 favorite games of all time.
Okay, all right. And
Super Metroid is a beautiful game. Like, because I love Contra and I love Super Metroid just because of the Aliens homage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Super Metroid is a homage to Aliens, and just like, I know Metroid is. I get it, but like, man, that game is so good. Like, it's
definitely the Age of Geiger.
And yep, H.R. Geiger, and there's like, you could even do a mix-up. You could do I know there's like Super Metroid, A Link to the Past randomizers down the line. Like, you could do that as a mix-up too. Those are, I guess, if I had to do a follow-up question, would be like, what would be one of the more, I guess, shorter games you would like to race? Because like, I know Link to the Past and Super Metroid are kind of long. Both amazing games, though. But like, is there a shorter game also that you would like to race or see other people race?
I'd have to think about that.
Yeah,
there's just too many good ones. I know.
I'd love to see Batman for the NES done. I mean, I'm
beautiful.
I'm not a speedrunner, but I love that game, and I'd love to learn it.
Oh, that Joker fight! That's gonna be would be fun to see in the community race that game, just because that last stage and that Joker fight are so rough. Like, I get so scared.
The bane of your existence if you've played it. My goodness. For the Castlevania fanatic piece too. Side note: Dead by Daylight, Castlevania new DLC, Dracula Killer, and Belmont. For the Castlevania fans, will you be picking that up? I'm just curious.
I never played it, so I don't know.
It was something that was kind of interesting. The question I was going to lead with was, how do you feel about retro integration into new age games? Is that something that's interesting, or would you rather stick with retro? But I figure I would just field it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you were kind of down a little bit there.
Oh, I was saying that it kind of to be piggybacked on the question of how do you feel about retro character integration in new age game? Is it for you, or are you more inclined to stick to the retro? But I think
honestly, I love it. I love like some of the recent games that have been coming out, especially Cyber Shadow and The Messenger, that are very retro inspired but modern games.
Beautiful examples. Beautiful.
I love those games. Like Cyber Shadow is a beautiful game. Shovel Knight, it's a beautiful game. Hollow Knight, Blazing Chrome, which is like a Contra like game. It's like, there are some of those really retro inspired games that are just so darn good. Like, I would love to race those in the future. I mean, there's just so many games to race or play, and so much little time we have. Like, it's just like a universal problem, right? Like, so many movies to watch, so many games to play. So it's like, maybe, but at the same time, I just want to also say something before we conclude. I kind of want to say a couple things about this particular game, A Link to the Past, and racing and speedrunning. I kind of want, like, I feel like there's a certain stigma to speedrunning that, like, some people say, like, oh, it's just glitching. You're just glitching the game. You're using a whole bunch of glitches to cheat your way through the game. And, if you notice, we've done 2 races so far of A Link to the Past Master Sword, and not one glitch has been used. It's all been legit gameplay. So I just want to say that speedrunning is not just using glitches. Like, I feel like that's an unfair assessment. And hopefully the race that we did in July and the race that we did today shows that speedrunning is not just glitching. Like, it's actually, there are categories to all the games. There are glitches, yes, but then it's also glitchless, no glitches. I just want to, like, bring that up and just be upfront about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think there's an infinite number of possibilities. We've done, I think, one of the more concise ones, and I think we had a great run today. I hope you don't mind, but I know that everybody kind of had stuff to do, and I don't want to run so much over the time budget as to cause issues, of course, with other events planned. But if it's all right with everybody, I think I'll go ahead and wrap everything up. Would that be everybody?
Yeah, I didn't have supper yet.
Yeah,
I need to eat too.
Yeah, I don't want to hold you guys up anymore. I know that there are plans and such. So if you guys would like, I'll happily wrap this up and give one last thank you very much for giving me the honor to host and speak on this, and again for your time and tolerance and all of this.
Yeah. Thanks for making room. I appreciate for you guys letting me be a part of this and stuff. It's fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was a blast. I'm kind of excited. Well, usually, whether I do commentary or participate in a race, I always like to, when I have the time, check back the playback, because I always love seeing how the races come, like, when you kind of have some time to reflect. And thanks guys for taking the time. You guys give a lot of your time today. So I can't thank you enough. And Retro Room, you gave a lot of your time as well and a lot of help. So you guys were all awesome. Thank you. And the viewers, thanks everyone for checking in. If you do happen to check out the replay, wherever you want to skim through it or not, thank you for taking the time to check in and hang out today and checking the replay. I'll make sure to put some timestamps on these two races when they first appeared, race 1 and race 2. So thanks again. And also, one last thought is, I know sometimes, like, it's, I feel like the classics don't get enough love sometimes. And I feel like it'd be really cool to see more people, no pressure though, but more people play like A Link to the Past. Cause I feel like it's a well-known game, but there's a lot more to discover with it. And these other classics like Super Metroid, if you think about it, more people need to play more of the classics, but there's also hidden gems also. I don't, of course, there's hidden gems out there as well. So it's about exploring different things. And that's about it. Have a thumbs up there tonight. It's time to eat some supper.
All right, everybody. Well, if it's all right with you, I'll go ahead and wrap everything up. But thank you again so much for all being here.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, guys, you heard everybody. Let me go ahead and bring us to our ending screen just here. And let me get us a little bit of music. I'm going to drop it down so I don't absolutely deafen everybody. We'll bring just a little bit of that in. Look at that. We had some really awesome races, some great racers, and I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too. It definitely seemed like a ton of fun. So I want to go ahead and, again, I can't do it enough. Thank you to Dad Level Podcast. Thank you to Great White North for being here, for being tolerant, offering your time, giving these awesome races, and having fun with us. Thank you so much to thumbbros for giving his time and helping to arrange and organize all of this, as he's put no small amount of work into getting this all situated. I hope everybody had a fun time, had a great time, and a huge thank you to the chat. A huge thank you to all of you who were here, who watched this live, whether you were lurking, whether you had it on the background or interacted. And thank you to those who come after, who watch the replays of this and have fun from that. That's what it's all about. Zombie JLT says, GG's. Thank you so much, Zombie. Always a pleasure, and thank you so much for coming in and seeing all this. A huge thank you to everybody who did stop in. I'm going to miss some because there was some chat in the in-between, but a huge thank you to Bogus, to Fighting Max, of course, to Miss Carla, and 21 Sandwich. Obviously, DLP and GWN and Thumb were all in the chat as well. To Showed86, who helped us point out some stuff. And if you guys want to take a look, he had a wonderful race. Last race session we did, if you take a look on my channel archives, you'll be able to see that. Now, please forgive that there were a couple of more tech issues than with this one, which seemed to go fairly swimmingly. But there are some great races that cannot be mitigated by tech issues, so please do give that a look, as Show does famously on that. Again, we also had a couple of other chatters. We had Harriet come in and give us some great commentary or great feedback on our commentary, and of course Ash, Retro Ryan, who popped in to say hi, which was awesome, and Owarzum, I think, or Owazrum, I'm sorry, is how you properly, I think, say that. A big thank you to you, and SB, who popped in as well. So we had a good amount of people. Dizzy the Gamer Jit looking for a racer to take him on in GTA 3, which I doubt that I'm going to be the expert in that regard. And but a huge thank you to all of you that I've mentioned, and my apologies if I've forgotten anybody. Again, a huge thank you to everyone else. I had a blast. I can't wait to see another one of these races and to get to do this again. And I hope you guys were excited about it too. For anybody who might be a regular to my channel, I will go ahead and give you a heads up that next week I will likely not be streaming at my normal time. If I do stream, I will be streaming late, because I have an event coming up that I have to that I get to take care of during this weekend. And so, but we will, if we do stream, we will be back to Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, and maybe a little bit later than the normally scheduled time. Again, huge thank you to everybody for popping in. This was an absolutely amazing opportunity, an absolutely amazing race. So much fun, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of your night, and wonderful finale to your weekend, or start to your week. We'll catch you next time.